What up, watch peeps? So after my Cincinnati Captain unboxing, the owner of Cincinnati Watch Co, Rick, reached out to me and we got to talking, and he's a really cool dude, very into his watches, very passionate about them, you can tell. Well, he offered to send me the Cincinnatus Field Watch prototype to check out, so that's what we got here today. And I know all these watches are currently sold out, but he will be restocking all the models this summer, so keep an eye out for that, because I gotta say, I am super impressed with both of the Cincinnati watches that I've handled so far. So let's get to it. I'm Pete, and we are Chillin' with Watches. Wrist check. I'm wearing the Seiko Alpinist today. Man, this watch just has really been growing on me the more I wear it. Just perfect proportions, fantastic size for my wrist. Speaking of perfect proportions, let's check out this Cincinnati Watch Co we have in for review today. Bam! Check that baby out. Now that dial jumps out at you. Really nice for this time of year in the spring. I've had a lot of fun wearing this watch. What we've got here is a 39mm field watch, and this is really my sweet spot for this type of watch. These come in this colorway here, which is called West Coast Blue, but they also come in a black dial gilt version and a green dial gilt version. And on their site, they're listed at $350. My first impression, I love this case. Really great proportions for the size. The dial to bezel ratio is just about spot on. In profile, it is fantastic. You know, I always talk about watches that have like big booty, case back hanging out the back here, and they handled that well here. I know it's a balance of mid-case thickness versus how much case back's hanging out the back, but I think they did a great job here. There's very little case back hanging out without having to resort to a slab-sided mid-case, and that can be a challenge with NH35 movements. But you get nice turn-down lugs here. We have a signed crown on the other side, and if we look close, it's an escapement wheel with a Y in the middle. Rumor is that they are updating their logo at some point in the future. Looking at the dial, lots of cool stuff to look at here. First, the color is awesome. It's very hard to capture on camera because it's not just this straight blue. It almost has a hint of lavender to it, maybe. I'm not sure how to explain it, but you have to see it in person. It's got a nice bit of texture to it as well, which I think is always kind of cool on a field watch. It's got this great wide railroad track, minute track. But that's where they have the 24-hour ring. I think that's a very cool way to do it. We have what appear to be embossed numerals for the hours, printed with BGW9. And the handset is just amazing. I always called these field spec hands. I don't know if they have a name. I think that's what they used to call them on the Gauze. But you got this great counterbalanced red tip seconds hand. And my favorite thing is that they're matte finish, which is great for contrast and legibility. Just really goes well with that textured dial. Flipping it over, we have just a pretty basic circular brushed case back. Spec sheet printed around the outside. And you'll see we have solid end links, which go to a pretty standard oyster style bracelet, which tapers from 20 down to 18 at the clasp. Now the links on the bracelet are a little bit long, but you do have, let's see, 3 micro adjusts, fairly well spaced out, that give you about 2/3 a link worth of adjustment there. The clasp is a milled out clasp with a pretty standard kind of 2-button safety fold over clasp. But one of the things they do really well with both the watches I have here is balancing the weight of the bracelet to the case. And I think that gives them just a really great feel on wrist. Now this is a prototype, so it's not regulated or adjusted. If you were to buy one of their watches production models, they are all assembled, adjusted, and regulated by their in-house watchmaker. So it might not be quite fair to put this on the time grapher, but let's throw it on there anyway and see how she's doing. So not too bad at all for an unadjusted watch. Plus 6 seconds a day. Amplitude 234. point 2. I am going to be doing a video soon explaining what all these numbers mean and how they translate to what's going on in your watch. So keep an eye out for that if you've ever been curious and you're not real familiar with time graphers. But +5, +6 seconds a day, that is great for an unregulated NH35. Going over the dimensions. As I mentioned, this is a 39mm case that comes in at 46.8 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. I measured it at 11.9 millimeters thick, and that is including this very slightly domed sapphire crystal. And it has 20 millimeter lug width. Going over some of the other specs, we do have a sapphire crystal. We use BGW9 Lume. It is running a Seiko NH35 movement, and it has 10 atmos of water resistance. And on this bracelet, sized for my 7¼ inch wrist, it came in at 147 grams. And here's how it wears on my 7¼ inch wrist. As you can see, this is such a great size for me. Those turn down lugs just really contours to the shape of the wrist. Female end length, so you don't get any kind of extended lug to lug. Just really wears great. Let's see how it looks side by side some other watches. So here it is next to the Seiko Alpinist I was wearing earlier, and these are both very similarly sized watches. I think they both have great dial to bezel proportions. They both wear fantastic. Similar movements, similar thickness. So I think this is a great comparison if you're familiar with the Seiko Alpinist. Looking at next to something larger like the Tudor Ranger, which is 41 millimeters versus the Cincinnatus is 39. Bigger dial on the Ranger gives it a little bit larger of an appearance. Swiss movement, making it come in a little thinner despite that heavily domed sapphire crystal. And if you were thinking about getting one or the other of these Cincinnati watches that I've talked about recently, here it is next to the 36mm Captain. Both very different wearing experiences. The Captain being very much a vintage look and feel, the Cincinnati being more modern, but both great wears. Lastly, let's check out that Lume. It's awfully sunny today, so that is impacting my Lume Shot here today. But what we've got is BGW9. I never find BGW9 to be all that bright, but it has a very cool blue glow. Again, fitting with that modern styling of this watch. Very cool. So there you have it, the Cincinnatus Field Watch from Cincinnati Watch Co. I might have to get one of these too. The more experience I have with this brand, the more I like it. The owner's a great guy, and you know that matters in the world of micro brands, right? Also, being in Western PA, I think it's kind of cool that he's basically a neighbor. So I'm definitely going to get my hands on one of the divers when they restock this summer. Super stoked for that. But for now, sneaker check. Wear my Jordan 3s, and that's it. I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.